The quiet kid from Monongahela. In the small steel-town shadows of Monongahela, Pennsylvania, Joe Montana grew up far from the bright lights of the big city. The neighborhood was humble, marked by weathered brick houses and the steady hum of factory whistles in the distance. It was here, among blue-collar families and quiet streets, that a boy was quietly shaping a legacy. Joe wasn't the loudest kid on the block. He didn't boast or seek attention, nor did he flash the kind of raw athleticism that caught the eye instantly. At school, he was known simply as the quiet kid. His classmates saw a reserved boy, steady but unremarkable. But beneath that calm surface, something deeper was brewing, a patience and a focus few could understand. On the football field, Joe's talent wasn't the kind that dazzled. His passes weren't the fastest, nor his moves the flashiest. But when the game tightened and pressure mounted, his demeanor never wavered. His high school coach, Coach Reynolds, often remarked on this unusual trait. "Most kids panic when the stakes get high," he'd say, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "But Montana? He just gets quieter. Like he's listening to the game." That quietness was more than a lack of noise. It was a presence, an inner calm that held him steady when others faltered. It was this subtle difference that made his teammates trust him in moments that demanded more than just skill. It was why, even though he wasn't the biggest or fastest, he often found himself in the clutch moments. But this quiet confidence came with a price. Joe was overlooked. College scouts sought flashier prospects, those with bigger arms or dazzling speed. Montana was passed over time and again. Offers from top-tier universities were sparse. His name barely whispered among the recruiting elite. Yet Joe did not despair. Rather than fight for attention, he chose to prepare. He studied playbooks with a meticulous eye, learning every formation, every option, until the game felt less like chance and more like a series of deliberate choices. His teammates noticed his dedication but still questioned if it would ever be enough. "I don't need to shout," Joe would say softly. "I just need to be ready." That readiness earned him a spot at the University of Notre Dame, not because he was the obvious choice, but because someone somewhere believed in that quiet poise. It was a chance to prove that sometimes the loudest success comes from the stillest places. As he packed his bags for South Bend, Joe Montana carried more than just clothes and football gear. He carried the hopes of a small town, the silent prayers of those who knew him, and an unshakable belief that calm could conquer chaos. In the chapters ahead, Joe's journey would test that belief. The quiet kid from Monongahela was about to face doubts bigger than any he had known before. But if history teaches us anything, it's that sometimes the greatest storms reveal the strongest roots. And Joe Montana was just beginning to grow, fighting from the shadows. Notre Dame was everything Joe Montana had dreamed of, and everything he hadn't. The campus buzzed with energy, tradition, and expectations that weighed heavily on every young athlete who stepped onto the field. For Joe, it was a new arena, but one that quickly made clear just how much he would have to fight to be seen. He wasn't the natural star everyone expected at quarterback. Coaches favored bigger, flashier players, athletes who dazzled the crowd with arm strength and speed. Joe's calm, steady style didn't turn heads in the same way. Early in his college career, he found himself benched, watching from the sidelines as others took the snaps he longed for. Those moments were the hardest. Sitting alone in the locker room, Joe wrestled with doubts that crept into his mind like shadows. Was he simply not good enough? Did his quiet approach fall short in a world that valued flash and confidence over patience? But Joe refused to give in. Instead of complaining, he doubled down on preparation. Every practice became a lesson. Every film session a chance to learn the game's hidden rhythms. He wasn't there to prove himself with noise or bravado. He wanted to prove it with results. When the starting quarterback got injured during a pivotal game, Joe was called to the field. The stadium held its breath, unsure what to expect from the quiet kid who had spent so long waiting in the shadows. The pressure was immense, but Joe's face betrayed none of it. He scanned the defense with calm precision and led his team on a remarkable comeback. Pass after pass, play after play, Joe's quiet confidence began to resonate. The crowd's murmurs turned to cheers, and by the end of the game, they were chanting his name. In that moment, Joe Montana wasn't just the quiet kid anymore. He was a contender. But this victory was only the beginning of a deeper struggle. The road ahead remained steep, with skeptics and critics waiting for any sign of weakness. Joe knew his journey wouldn't be easy, not because of a lack of talent, but because the world around him had already made its judgment. Yet through every doubt, every setback, Joe's belief never wavered. He learned to speak through his actions on the field, letting his calm leadership become his voice. While others relied on flash or charisma, Joe mastered the art of silent resilience. "Let the game speak," he would tell himself quietly. And the game did. This period at Notre Dame forged something essential in Joe, a steeliness born from waiting, watching, and enduring. It wasn't the glory of instant success, but the slow burn of persistence that would carry him far beyond college fields. As Joe Montana's story unfolds, that persistence would face its greatest tests. The NFL awaited, where stakes would rise higher and pressures mount fiercer. But if he had learned anything at Notre Dame, it was this: sometimes the biggest battles are won in silence. And Joe was ready to fight. The catch and the calm before chaos. Joe Montana's transition to the NFL was far from the fairy tale many imagined. Drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in 1979, he entered a league brimming with fierce competitors and soaring expectations. The bright lights of professional football revealed a new world, one where past accomplishments faded quickly if not proven again under harsher pressure. At first, Joe was far from the spotlight. The team's veteran quarterbacks dominated the field, and Montana spent countless games on the sidelines, watching, learning, and waiting. Critics questioned the wisdom of the 49ers' gamble. Was this quiet kid really destined for greatness? Yet, beneath the surface, Joe prepared with unwavering discipline. His practice habits were meticulous, studying defenses and perfecting every throw. While others thrived on showmanship, Joe's strength lay in his unshakable calm, a trait that would soon become his signature. The 1981 NFC Championship game against the Dallas Cowboys marked the turning point. The 49ers trailed, time slipping away, hopes fading under the weight of a formidable opponent. It was in this crucible that Montana's legendary poise emerged. With less than a minute left, Joe orchestrated a drive that seemed impossible. Calm and focused, he maneuvered the offense down the field with precise passes and strategic plays. The stadium watched, breath held tight, as the clock ticked down. Then came the catch. Joe dropped back and launched a high pass toward the back of the end zone. Dwight Clark, sprinting past defenders, leapt and snatched the ball out of the air, securing victory and forever etching the moment into football history. But what many saw as sheer magic was, for Joe, the result of patient preparation and unwavering faith. He often described the play as unfolding in slow motion, his mind quiet and clear amidst the chaos. While fans and commentators marveled at the spectacle, Montana's true triumph lay in his silent mastery of the moment. The catch transformed Joe Montana from a player waiting in the wings to Joe Cool, a nickname earned not through flamboyance, but through quiet confidence under pressure. He became the embodiment of composure, the quarterback who never panicked, no matter the stakes. Yet even in glory, Joe remained grounded. The spotlight was bright, but he never let it distract him. Behind the legend was a man who understood that success was not about theatrics. It was about trust, preparation, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. As Montana's star rose, so did the expectations and challenges. The NFL demanded more than skill. It required leadership, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit. Joe's journey was far from over. In many ways, the hardest tests still lay ahead. But if there was one thing Joe Montana had proven, it was this: when the world falls silent in awe, it is often the quietest voice that speaks the loudest. And Joe was ready to speak volumes. The last drive. The stage was set for one final test, a moment that would seal Joe Montana's place among the greatest. Super Bowl 23, January 1989. The San Francisco 49ers faced the Cincinnati Bengals, a battle that teetered on a knife's edge. With just over 3 minutes left, the 49ers trailed by 3 points. The weight of a championship rested squarely on Joe's shoulders. In the tunnel, before stepping onto the field for what would become the most